Congratulations, YouTubeville! This is Anna, aka Boondoggle Bliss, coming to you with a new series of shows that I'm calling Boondoggle Bliss University Reselling Basics. I might change the name, I don't know, whatever. But the premise of this is that every show that I produce in this series will be for educational purposes only, helping with the description of clothing items when reselling on eBay and Poshmark, Mercari, and Etsy, and whatever there is out there. I identify there's some type of a need out there in helping people come up with great descriptions, using the correct terminology to describe styles, and just needing keywords, just basic fashion glossary type terminology. So my hope with these shows are that when you're beginning to list a certain clothing item and you want to refresh your memory on the different styles and things you need to describe, that you'll turn to this and you'll watch it and it'll prompt your brain and all those things will fire and you'll be like, awesome, and you'll be the best descriptive person, reselling person. Okay, you know what I mean. So, okay, clothing terms, descriptions, styles, keywords, fashion terms. This is basically what this is about. And the first one in the series is dresses. Dresses. We are going to learn about dresses, the different styles. And you know what? This is actually pretty good for a men reseller too. Just because, you know, men don't know how to describe women's attire. So when I think in my mind of a target audience for these shows, definitely men who are just starting out. The second audience in my mind is the new employees that I have hired and will hire in the future to help me. I will be using these videos as kind of educational training pieces to help them write the best description they can for eBay. I also think of individuals who basically are just starting out to reselling and they know the basics, but they just want to get a little bit more in depth and they want to really get to a point where they really know what they're talking about and they write really great descriptions and people are like, oh my God, who's this reseller? She does really, really good describing everything. She must be so experienced. Was she a stylist before? You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. So we're going to learn such things as what is a bias cut? What's an empire waist? What's a mesh overlay on the skirt of the dress? What does that mean? And actually, what is the difference between a tent dress, a trapeze dress, and an A-shaped dress? Isn't that all the same thing? It's not. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about such things as difference between a shift dress and a sheath dress. Do you know the difference? Sheath, shift, sheath, okay, I can't say it fast enough. It gets me messed up. And then what about sleeves? You guys, let's talk about sleeves. There's so many sleeve variation. A bishop sleeve? What about hems? Keyhole hem? Frill hem, frill sleeve, frill neckline, kimono, dolman. What's a Rand Bertha collar? A Peter Pan collar? There's a lot of stuff to know. Granted, you don't have to know a lot of the things, but I think the main thing that we'll focus on in this episode are the dress styles, and there are so many of them, and when people are looking for a dress type, they're going to be entering these keywords. So it behooves you to know them and master them pretty good. So here it goes. So first you might be asking, where am I getting this information? I wanted to let you know all of what you are looking at today can be found on Pinterest. Pinterest has the most infographics you can possibly find on clothing, style, names, and everything. So all that you see has come from Pinterest. Now, I also shared with you some websites before, websites that contain fashion terms and definitions. So if you want to go back, you can go through my videos and find that. Definitely shared with you lots and lots of resources in the past. So here we go. Let's talk about dress shapes. For one, the A-line dress. That's going to be your most classic look. The A-line also at times may be referred to as fit and flare. Fit and flare is anything that comes in at the waist and goes out. And so A-line and fit and flare may be used in a similar fashion. Now, what I wanted to show you also is that I created this little tool for my employees where I cut the pictures from Instagram and put it in one document. So when they're listing and they forget the name of something, they can quickly come in here and check it out. Also, I forget the A-line and fit and flare sometimes may be called a princess dress depending on how puffed out the skirt section is of the dress. But for the most part, it's going to be A-line or fit and flare. So I have all of these handy here so we can look at them as we're talking and check them out. There are so many different types. Also, tea dress. I don't know if you've heard that. I don't frequently hear tea dress as a description, so I'm not telling you to use it. However, it is out there. So that's your typical A-line. Now, I don't know if you know a little bit of history, but Christian Dior first came up with the A-line dress in his 1955 runway collection. So just so you know, we have Christian Dior to thank for in the A-line dress. Then I wanted to talk about the baby doll dress. I am not sure if I do have a visual here for you, but I use that term very frequently on anything that resembles a really cute dress that is just, it's almost like a kid's dress, but it's bigger size for women, so it would have all the features of a princess, kind of skater skirt. Sometimes it would have like ruffles and things, but baby doll is also a great descriptive term for cute little dresses. So for example, like something like this here, if it was pink and it had lace and all of that, that can also be called a baby doll dress. Now, ball gowns. I have a feeling there's not going to be too many ball gowns. I mean, I don't know if you guys come across those, but maybe when you're describing prom dresses and such, this is going to be your ball gown. I actually have another visual for you guys, just in case you're getting into the prom season and getting into describing lots of dresses. I use this visual right here for describing dresses. I have a few dresses to post myself, but we have gowns with a V-neck. We have gowns with a sheer overlay. That's anytime there is any type of taffeta, kind of a Georgette overlay. You wanna include that it has a sheer overlay. We have mermaid silhouettes, so gowns with a mermaid finish. A lace tattoo is anytime you have a sheer overlay that has designs on it. The best way to describe it is a lace tattoo back, which is fantastic. People love things like that to show off their back. Peplum is anything that has a bodice that's fairly fitted and comes in at the waist and flares out. That is a peplum. We also use peplum as a descriptor for blouses, shirts, and blazers that have the similar thing. A portrait back is a dress that reveals the back. It generally closes around the neckline, has capped sleeves, sometimes long sleeves, but it has an open back. That's why it's called portrait. Then we have a transformer skirt. That is anytime we have length differences with the skirt and the rest of the dress. It can be short in the front and then longer on the side, or it might be some type of an asymmetrical transformer skirt and then is longer on different sides. So that's what a transformer skirt means and looks like. Then we have statement sleeves. They can also sometimes be called tattoo sleeves. Anytime where the dress is fairly simple, but the sleeves are, you know, a knockout, a truly gorgeous sleeves, you're going to call that statement sleeves. Then we have a corset bodice, and there's a lot of dresses, prom dresses, wedding dresses that have a beautiful corset design with a very ball gown flared out finish. So that's what that means. And of course, as you know, there are different necklines and finishes, and that might be a whole separate class. There are the sweetheart, the princess, there's so many. Then we have the 1920s dress, flapper dress. So anything that is fairly fitted and hugs the hips and goes down and flares out at the bottom, that'll have a 1920s type terminology. Some people call them retro dresses, flapper dresses, 1920s, whatever, Art Deco, anything to signify the 1920s era. Then we have floaty fabric. That is anytime you generally will have the kind of a bodycon shape on top, and then as it flares out and has some type of shape to it, whether it gathers here on the side and it flares out, but we call that floaty fabric. Then we have the tiered skirt. So when we have multiple layers, it's tiered. Hint of gold, that's not a dress type, but you know, that would be a wedding dress intertwined with gold finishes. And there's a lot of prom dresses and just any dance formal dresses, ball gowns that have metallic finishes. You want to make sure you point that out. And the reason why is perhaps the lady who is shopping for a dress has silver jewelry or gold jewelry she has in mind to wear with a dress. So if the dress that you're selling has any of those notes poking out, you got to make sure to spell it out, that it has silver, metallic, you know, inlay, overlay, sheer, accents, or maybe the tattoo back has silver or gold accents. You got to point that out. You know, in her mind, it has to match your jewelry. So going down the line of formal dresses, if anything is a one-shoulder dress, you have to point that out. Here's another example of a tiered dress, whether it's short or long. If there are multiple layers, you want to point that out as well. Here's another great visual of a peplum dress, similar to what we saw. So you see one right here, peplum, right here, and then right here. It could be long, short, and definitely is something that accentuates an hourglass figure, so something worth pointing out. So that was the short and skinny on beautiful dresses like that, ball gown dresses. There are also bubble dresses. I forgot to mention that term when describing more formal dresses. And a bubble is anything that flares out and kind of comes in towards the end. So whereas kind of the princess dresses will remain wide at the bottom, a bubble will come in a little bit, sometimes a little bit even more, to obviously resemble the shape of a bubble. So bubble dresses. Okay. Moving on. There is something called a coat dress. I don't come across it too often. However, a coat dress is just what it says. It actually looks like a coat. And let me see if I have any. Looks like a coat, and it's called a coat dress. Oh, oops. What is this? I have too many things open. Don't save. Don't save. My goodness. Like a coat but it will have a waistline with a belt and can be worn as a dress. If I come across pictures, I'll insert them here later for a visual. Then let's talk about a cocktail dress. So a cocktail dress is anything that is a step up above in your clothing attire that you would wear to a more formal event. So a cocktail dress could be a descriptor for dresses like this. Here I'm circling it with my mouse. Dresses like this. Definitely dresses that have this type of look are cocktail dresses, but cocktail dresses normally are shorter in length. Yes, you can have a long, beautiful gown that could serve as a cocktail dress, but those would be just described more as a formal dress. A cocktail dress is something quick and easy, short, wearing to a afternoon happy hour, or out with your honey to some event or some gala type event, charity event. Cocktail dresses are just a bit more formal. Now, let's not forget Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Remember that cocktail dress she wore? When I think of cocktail dresses, I think of Julia Roberts and that really sexy, elegant type look. So anyway, just wanted to put that in there. Moving on. In a separate episode, I intend to go over all of the dress code standards. What is a black tie, and then followed by black tie optional. Then there's something called black tie creative. There are so many different styles. And then there's the cocktail dress. And as I mentioned before, the cocktail dress, generally it's a short dress that are party ready. Also very common having a little black dress for cocktails. But I intend to go over all of the styles in more detail at a future time. What is a prairie dress? I do not believe I have a prairie dress pictured, but I just wanted you to know the name of it and that it does actually exist. It's a neck to toe coverage. It has most likely dainty floral or calico print and a ruffled skirt and puff sleeves. That is a true prairie dress. It's generally very conservative. Sometimes a little feels too constrictive, but it's very gorgeous, and I see them popping up here and there. So just remember prairie dress and think of Little House on the Prairie or HBO's Big Love, and you know what I'm talking about. Now, if you've been following me along for a little bit, you know I do have a fascination with the new modern prairie chic type of look. And that is definitely not conservative and restrictive as we talked about. But it's just basically a new take, a more free, loose take on the prairie girl. Next, let's talk about the sheath dress. So there's lots of confusion between sheath and shift, and I wanted to point out the difference. So here we have a sheath dress. A sheath dress will come in at the waist. So think of a professional dress wearing to work. It will come in at the waist, just as I'm showing you right here with my mouse, circling it. Right next to it is the shift dress. The shift dress does not come in at the waist. It just hangs. Kind of an older term used in the 1890s was a sack dress. So shift or sack dress. And the sack dress, a weightless, loose shaped dress that comes into the knee or all the way to the ankle, was known just as a sack dress. But now the new term is shift. Once again, it just goes straight down, not like a tent dress where it has a visible expansion here at the hips and the hem, but that's a shift dress. Sheath will come in at the waist. So let's see if we have any pictures of a sheath dress here. Here we go. See the difference? Sheath comes in, out, shift, just straight down. Look, Peter Pan collar. Ooh, ooh. So that's that. Now, a shift dress, well, I don't know if you know, but Jackie Kennedy made it kind of popular in the 1960s, and when she was touring with her husband, that's really when that dress came to life and became popular, and people started wearing dress. So think shift dress, Jackie O. Next, we have the shirt dress. The shirt dress should be pretty self-explanatory. It's a shirt, looks like a dress. Let's see if we have one here. Boom, shakalaka, boom. Oh, look at that. There's a coat dress down here. That's an ugly picture. But here we have a shirt waist dress. So not the best visual. However, check this out. It's a shirt, comes in at the waist, and then it goes out. So that is a shirt waist dress. I will point out to you later behind me, I have a actual shirt dress hanging where it does not come in at the waist and it's not belted. It's just a shirt dress, and so that is a difference. The shirt dress can be worn, not belted. A shirt waist dress has to come in at the waist, and that's important for those that do not want to highlight their waistline. They will not want to have anything belted, so it's something that you do want to point out in your description. Another close item close behind the shirt dress is the polo dress. A polo dress, the top looks like a polo shirt, and then it's just simple. Polo dress is also known as a tennis dress. If you're looking for something similar, polo dress or a tennis dress. Let me see what we have here. Anything close to that? Oh, here's the shirt dress. Here's another shirt dress. But like I mentioned, shirt waist dress. This would be a shirt waist dress. So if you have something like that printed out, type in waist in there for yourself. All right. So look at that. Sheath. Oh my God. Sheath, shift. Repetition is key. So I'm pointing these out to you several times. All right. What's next? We talked about the shirt dress. What about the slip dress? You guys familiar with the slip dress? Should be pretty self-explanatory. Anything that looks like a slip is a slip dress. So sometimes, when we look at the stars that are wearing those, we may not know, is this really a slip or a slip dress? But I don't have a picture right here, but it's something that's going to be very basic with spaghetti straps. That just comes down without any waistline fitted type accents. It's going to be just plain, just as if you were wearing something sheer and needed a slip underneath. That is a slip dress. Let's talk about sundresses. Sundresses are actually loosely used these days, and anything you can wear during the summer seems like is a sundress. But a sundress by definition is something that has spaghetti or tie string straps, a puckered bodice, and a full skirt. And also known as a baby doll dress in some circles, but that is a summer dress. Halter tops should not be called summer dresses or sundresses. They are halter top dresses. That's a big difference. What else? Tank dresses. Tank dresses to me are very similar to slip dresses. It's basically an elongated tank top that is now a dress. Let me see if I have any examples in here. Tank dresses. No, I do not. I'm pointing them out because I'm seeing them more and more. Oh, here's a slip dress. We talked about slip dress. Sundress, see what I was talking about? Sundress, halter top. I do not have a tank dress. Tank dress often is also synonymous with a bodycon because it's tight and it hugs the entire body, meaning it's very fitted. So a tank dress. Now, what else do we have? Tent dresses. Let's talk about tent dresses. This is a tent dress right here, meaning it goes from the top where it's narrow, and as it goes down, it flares out. That is a tent dress. Trapeze dress, triangle dress. So they are all in here, and we often don't know the difference. And I gotta tell you, there is not much. Really, it's hard to tell the difference. So traditionally a tent dress, so the tent is an A-line that's cut with excessive amounts of fabric, right? So a tent dress will have lots and lots of fabric. And when you're kind of lay it on a flat surface, it looks like a tent. A trapeze is just an exaggeration of a sack dress. So it doesn't have as much fabric that hangs from the shoulders and flares out at the chest. That it's funny because a long time ago, when people had trapeze dresses, they were made to hide small children underneath. So if you look back at the fabric fashion industry, trapeze dresses were served a purpose, whereas today they don't. But tent dress, trapeze dress, they're very much similar, except a tent dress has just an exorbitant amount of fabric. And those dresses are popular these days. If you look at the loose dresses from Free People, a lot of them have these exaggerated A-lines, big fabric, extra fabric hanging loosely from the top. Those are tent dresses. Let's talk about tube dresses. Tube dresses. Think tube tops. Think of a strapless bodice. And tube dresses are very popular as well during formal season. Let me see if I have any here. This could be a tube top right here. Very popular in the 80s. But they are popular during the prom season. Tube top dresses. I'm trying to see if I have any examples, but I believe you know what I'm talking about. No tube top dresses here. And none here. Okay, moving on. The tunic dress. Let's not forget about the tunic dress. The tunic dress was and continues to be something that we encounter every day. Think of a tunic top, and I should have a picture for you guys of a tunic dress. If not, let me quickly Google it. Tunic dress. We have tunic dresses all over by all the brands. They basically took the tunic top and they expanded it to be worn as a dress. So as you can see, lots of different styles, but it's all the same. It's a tunic dress. It's, for the most part, going to be fairly short and can be worn alone without anything. But in the winter, you can convert it to a kind of a top with skinny jeans or with leggings, and can be worn all year round, summer and winter. Tunic dresses. They are generally loose fitting, cut straight from the sides. The hemline would fall about 4 inches from the knee, so shorter. Let's see. They're made from silk and cotton, and sometimes they're used as a beach cover-up or just a stylish dress or a loungewear. And so who made them popular? This is a quiz. Do you know who made the tunic dress popular? Pop quiz. Tory Burch. Tory Burch, first of all, made the tunic popular, and then for that stemmed the tunic dress, and then it's very similar like Diane von Furstenberg, who created the wrap dress, which was coming up next. Tory Burch created the tunic dress. So talking about the wrap dress. The wrap dress, it's a one-piece knee-length dress made of cotton jersey generally. It has body clinging cut, and its left and right panels cross in front and are tied together by a built-in sash tie. So let's see if we have any wrap dresses. Here we go. Built-in sash tie. Okay. So gentlemen, now you have some terminology on sash ties. I bet you didn't know what that was before this episode. So there are some wrap dresses also that are faux wraps, meaning they just look like they're a wrap, but they're actually not. They might have a plunging piece of fabric layered down here, and they might cinch here at the waist, but they are not actual wrap dresses. They're faux wrap dresses, so just keep that in mind. And that's very important when it comes to sizing. Generally, a true wrap dress will allow for additional sizing and room in the bust area and the waistline. So if you have a wrap dress that is a faux wrap, you got to point that out. Otherwise, someone might buy it thinking they have room to adjust and they don't. So make sure to point that out, everybody. A wrap dress. What else? So that covers pretty much the major styles. I'm just going to go through all of these pictures now as a recap and to pick up anything we missed. Asymmetrical hem, anytime you have an irregular hem, meaning it's cut sideways or something, it's not just a straight line, that is a asymmetrical hem. We went over ball gowns, blouson, that's anytime there's a loose blouse at the top and then it comes out. There's also a different style of dress I'll cover later that is similar to that. Corset dresses, anytime they have a kind of an exaggerated corset or a muted corset, but nonetheless it's a corset, very fitted bodice. And then we have empire waist dresses. Empire, generally right below the bust, it cinches. So instead of cinching at the waist and coming at the waist, it comes in right under the your bosom. Now there's also something that falls down an inch and a half below that, and that is just a high-waisted dress. So that is different than a empire waist. When someone looks at empire waist, they're assuming the line is right under their boobs. And if it falls a little lower, that's a high waist. And then it falls once again an inch, 2 inches below, that's just a waist. Then we have maxi dresses. We didn't mention maxi dresses, but anything that is long is a maxi dress. One shoulder dresses, we talked about peplum, sheath shift, shirt dresses, we talked about shirt dresses, and we talked about shirt waist dresses. This is a shirt waist dress. This is just a shirt dress. So I wanted to point that out. Then we have the stretch or bodycon dresses, also synonymous with the band-aid or bandage, bandage bandage dress, where it's very tight and hugs, very fitted. Very popular dress made in the 80s and still popular, much to my surprise. It's still worn to the clubs dancing all the time. So don't forget stretch, bodycon, bandage dresses, club dresses, also described as club dresses. And we have sundresses. Don't forget sundresses are generally ones with a spaghetti strap and are just, they come in at the waist and they flare out. We have sweater dresses. Anything that is longer that falls below your butt is a sweater dress or can be worn as a kind of a long sweater with leggings. Tea dresses, we covered that. Tiered, we covered that. Tunic dresses, we covered that. Wiggle pencil skirt dresses, we didn't cover that. Very popular, made popular in the 1950s. Think Mad Men. Wiggle pencil dresses, also referred to as bodycon. If described today, just because of the fitted aspect and how extremely hugging the curves they are, but wiggle, pencil dresses. The difference between a wiggle pencil dress and a bodycon dress is the length. Wiggle pencil dresses will fall to the knees or below. Bodycon, their hems are always above the knee. And we talked about the wrap dress. So we covered these dresses here. We've covered this right here. Let's see what other visuals we have. Oh, this was just a visual of a few dresses. Here's a slip dress we covered. Fit and flare dress. You remember that? What I talked about? Comes in at the waist and flares out. Also known as a A-line dress, fit and flare. Shift dress, wrap dress. That's just a floral, but this also could be described as a fit and flare. Bodycon, maxi, party dress, formal dress, whatever. Peplum dress, summer dress, skater dress. We covered that. Let's see. So this is what I'm making for my employee to have as a reference. To me, this covers majority of what I sell. If it's not up here, it's here. Once in a while, we come across additional descriptions. We need dress shape vocabulary, then I put that in there. And for length, they have their lengths here, and they can quickly describe a micro skirt, a mini skirt, a short skirt, a knee length, above calf skirt, also the traditional pencil wiggle skirt, mid calf midi. Midi falls above the ankles, a maxi, evening, and floor length. So that is that on shift. On dresses. Let me pause for a little bit, get something to drink, and come back to you for more discussion. I did forget to insert one more dress type, and that is the smock dress. The smock dress is basically anything that is somewhat shapeless. We've also used, I see people use the tunic verbiage when describing a smock dress or a baby doll dress, but it pretty much is extremely loose. Longer time ago, a smock dress, this was a smock dress. It came in pretty much to the bust, and then it flared out of the bust. But these days, oh, here's a good example. These days, that hemline has fallen somewhat to below the bosom, and it flares out that way. But that is a smock dress. Very loose, fitted, oversized, kind of a baby doll dress. Smock dress. So you got it all? You got it? Pop quiz. As I'm naming these styles, I want you to visualize them in your mind. Are you ready? Set. Go. Asymmetrical, baby doll, belted, bodycon, bubble, mini, off the shoulder, one shoulder, shift, shirt, corset, cutout, crop waist, empire, fitted, halter, kimono, maxi, smock, strapless, tiered, trench, t-shirt, tunic, waist, wrap. Those are all dresses. Did you visualize them? If not, play it again and play it on slow if need be. But you got to get those down at the very minimum. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. All right, what else do we have? So when it comes to describing dresses in your write-up when you're reselling, the most important measurements, and if you want to learn about more measurements, make sure to watch my video, especially dedicated to just listing measurements, but the ones you want to list for dresses are length, bust, and waist. Waist, not always, but any dress that actually comes in at the waist a little bit or is fitted, you want to list the waist so that ladies know if they're going to be able to fit into that dress. The next thing you want to list is anything that makes the dress unique. So for example, is there a statement feature? Is there anything unique about it? Are there any embellishments? Are there any fabric differences? You know, sheer versus solid, opaque, semi-sheer. You want to identify that for us, comfort features. I love describing comfort features. For example, it comes in at the waist, it's cinched with spandex. That's definitely a comfort feature. You want to point those out. We look for those really comfortable little things that will make the item comforting. Any closures, zippers, button type things, a lot of dresses have the side zipper for, the comfort of getting into it. But definitely a lot of stuff on the fabric. Is it iridescent, stretchy? Does it have appliques, sheer, fitted, cinched, knife pleat, paper bag waist? Anything you want to tell, I would point that out. Also, going back to measurements, if there's anything unique that may impact the way the dress is fitted, such as if it has a bodice, and ladies who are short torsoed, long torsoed might want to know the length of that corset design. Or if you have straps that are not adjustable, people may want to know the size of the straps on a dress. If there's a asymmetrical hem and it actually goes up pretty high, you want to point out the highest length of the dress and then the lowest. So how low does it go and how high does it go? Also, if it has a draped back and it falls, it's like a plunged back and it falls really low, you want to point that out as well. Ladies would not want to make the mistake of getting a dress and have half their butt cheek showing, if you know what I mean. So that's important. Now I want to go over some words to describe dresses, and like words that will kind of make your description of the dresses appear more so than if you just put down a simple fact. Now, some people are against that because it over embellishes the terminology and they may not be comfortable with it, but I like to use a lot of expressive language when describing a dress just to help the lady visualize better kind of how they may appear in the dress or anything stylistically about the dress. So I'm going to go through and list some keywords I've used in the past, and I'm also those are the keywords I will be sharing with my employees to see if they can use in their description of the style of the dress. But I'm just going to read off some of my favorites. Flamboyant, flattering. I use that often when it's fitted and provides the shape of the lady. It's a flattering look. An elegant look, anything that appears classy, timeless. Audrey Hepburn, I use the word elegant. Delicate, modest, something that has full coverage is modest. Minimalist, something very basic. The word minimalist is often used in search. Minimalist and utilitarian is a style these days, so those words are words that are searched. Something that appears daring, so kind of sexy, has some cutouts that are in places that may only be fitted for a club. The dress would be called daring. Distinctive, if it has distinctive features, statement features that you want to express. And expressive, that's another great word. If it has very significant pattern that has lots of colors and lots of things happening, so let's say expressive floral something, those are fun words to use. Other words I've used are things like appealing, bold. When the fabric is breathable, you want to point that out when you're talking about sundresses. It's important. I talked about modesty, but also words such as classic, timeless, or traditional are great words to describe very iconic, classic dress styles that kind of transcend trends and will be around for a long time. Classic, traditional, timeless. Once again, dramatic is when I'm trying to exaggerate something. Let's say there are statement sleeves and they're just kind of very dramatic and big. As a matter of fact, these days there's a lot of tops that have just these huge, crazy sleeves, and I would call them dramatic, or anything that's kind of over exaggerated. Luxurious. When a dress feels luxurious and expensive, you kind of want to point that out. Because, you know, there are some of those fabrics that you just touch them and it feels like $1,000,000. You want to portray that when you're describing the dress to a potential buyers. So use words as luxurious, feels expensive, you know, feels something. Just kind of try to describe it through words. If something has lots of movements, that's also a great way to describe a dress. You know, a silk dress that has a lot happening to it and it moves really easily with you and it doesn't confine you, I would describe it as having lots of movement. If it's extremely colorful, rather than putting colorful, I would put array of colors coming through, or something like that. If something has a very prominent feature, I would describe it as a dominant feature or dominant display of blah blah blah. You know, some items have something that's like so in your face. You would say dominant floral embroidery or statement embroidery. I talked about conservative, expensive. Once again, if something feels luxurious and expensive, point that out. High style, anything that resembles runway styles or has kind of classic features, you would say high style or runway style. Of course, if anything is stylish, trendy, current, on trend, you can point that out as well. I like to use the term Vogue worthy. So if something's like really, really stylish, you can say Vogue worthy. Youthful, baby doll dresses, smock dresses, you can describe as youthful. I would describe this as very youthful. Believe it or not, older ladies like ourselves want to sometimes look youthful. Like this dress from Lucky. I feel youthful in it. You're probably thinking, you're an old bag, who cares? I do. I'm the only one that cares, and guess what? This dress makes me feel youthful. Distinctive is another word. If something is just extremely over exaggerated or has like a statement piece, I would say distinctive overlay of blah 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 blah. So you see what I'm saying? There's a way to describe clothing that makes it more attractive to the buyer who's reading your description. And I believe that goes a long way versus just leaving just basic measurements, a color and a style. If you put just few little words, descriptions in there, the lady has you have a higher chance of allowing the lady to visualize that piece of clothing on herself versus not. So that's my 2 cents on that. Now, don't forget styles. There's so many subcultures of styles, and whether a dress fits into that, I do not know, but I do want you to kind of keep an eye out on the different terminology of style subculture. So things such as, let me see. So if something looks like rockabilly or retro, 20s, flapper, and all of that, use that terminology to highlight your item. Pin-up, similar to rockabilly. Anything that is bohemian, romantic, shabby chic, kind of new age. You want to use those terms as well. People look for that. If it's something that's kind of grunge, rocker, skate punk, or even glam rock, if something is glam rock, use that. There's a lot of terminology around punk and rock. You can be a pastel punk rocker, a glam punk rocker, neon punk. There's all of that terminology, sporty glam, athleisure, femleisure, all those different style names. Anything dealing with cosplay or fandom or Japanese animation of any kind, you want to point that out, especially fandom. You want to say that. But I have some dresses that I can use cosplay as the term, and I think it'll get more views versus not using it. Then we have, let's see, festival season. Obviously, we just had Coachella. So anything that is a great piece, a bohemian festival item, you want to use those terms because people search those terms. Then we have kind of world, ethnic, naturalette type clothing. Goodness, there's, let's see, goth, mod, kind of anything that's avant-garde, you want to point that out. There's all these different subcultures, right? The biker babe subculture and the hippie subculture. What about steampunk and all that kind of futuristic Victorian steampunk stuff? Those are also great descriptions of style that you want to use should you have a piece that fits that. Now, you know, hipster. We have the urban chic, hipster, street, urban, the lagging look. You guys remember emo and kind of all of that stuff. There's all these terms. Use them to your advantage. I want to keep these videos somewhat short and sweet. I don't know if I'm capable of that as evidence of this show and where we are right now. So I'm going to stop right here and I'm going to tell you more is coming. And if you have any other ideas of what I can include, let me know. But here's what I'm thinking so far. We're going to do a show on tops, skirts, pants, jeans, jackets, and also I want to do a separate show on pattern names and a separate show on fabrics. Now the tops show will have information on the sleeves, sleeve names, types, and hemlines right here. And then also tops will include the necklines. So although that is something that's very relevant to dresses, because dresses can also have different sleeves and necklines, that will be condensed into tops. So if you really want to be good at all of this, you're going to have to watch all of them. Skirts will include hemlines, which is also applicable to dresses. And then once again, we'll go over pants, and I'll separate jeans from pants because I believe there's so many different things to talk about jeans, so much to learn, so many dark washes and skinny and, you know, bell bottoms versus boot cut, and there's so many things. And so I want to dedicate a show just to jeans. And so yeah, I think this is gonna be fun. Like, I feel like I have this little series in my mind, and I'm sure I'm gonna like totally learn as I go along, and I hope to get some of your feedback, and we'll see where this goes. We'll see where this goes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned just a little bit today. Please stay tuned for some more stuff. I gotta go kiss Gigi. Thank you for watching, you guys. I love you.